Hello, this is Professor Singha again. This is the second video in the series of 5 where I'm showing file processing in Java. This time we are going to show how to output the data to an output file that can be archived in one of the drive to which you can write files. So writing to output file is done to archive the processed or unprocessed data, and the first two steps are identical, as I've shown in the video number 1, to the process of reading from the input file, and you will see they are exactly the same steps. Okay, we repeat those two steps in next two slides. So step 1 is get the file name from the user. Now in this case the file does not have to exist. Java will create a file if it doesn't exist, as long as you are permitted to write to that drive. So file name can be either full or absolute path or relative path in Windows operating system. Here we'll only talk about the absolute path. Absolute path is the file path starting with the drive letter separated by the slashes, the folder names ending in the file name, and for example below is the generic pattern for the absolute file path. So it will be the drive letter colon slash name of the first folder slash name of the second folder, and then names of other folders separated by slashes. Finally the file name with extension. Java will not accept a file name that does not have extension. If file name does not have extension to begin with, then it's fine, but if it does have an extension, then file name dot extension has to be given. Then the second step is we bind the file name to a file class object, exactly the way we did for the reading from the input file. To write to an output file, Java requires us first bind the file name to a file class object. This binding is done by the following type of code line. We declare a file class object called f, new file, and here we pass the file name, which is a string which has the absolute path to the output file. In above call line, name of the file stored in string called file name has been passed as an argument to the file class constructor. This code line will bind the actual physical file to the Java object f. If file does not exist, it will create it later on. Then here is the step that is different from reading from input file. Here we bind the file object to an object of a class called printstream. Okay, printstream class object, when bonded to the file class object in earlier step, can print the data to an output file, and this is done by the code line like below. We simply say printstream, here's the variable name, this is the class name, this is the variable name, new file, and we are passing the file object that we had created in the previous slide. Okay, and then now object PS can be used to write to an output file, just like we use system.out.println. ps.println can print to an output file which has been bonded to the object PS. Okay, there is one extra facility available in writing to output files. If file does not exist, then it will be created, provided creating file is permissible on that particular drive. Okay, this is the summary view of Java code for writing to output file. File f, new file, full or absolute or relative path to the output file, needs the file name string that will bind the output file to the object f, and then this object f is passed to the printstream constructor called new printstream f, and the object PS thus created can write to the output file using .println or .print or .printf that we'll see a little bit later. Okay. So this is the mental picture that you should keep in mind, how these bindings are done. Output file name is embedded, this layer is embedded inside the file class object. File class object is embedded inside the print stream object, and the print stream object is the last layer, outer layer that we use to write to the file, whose name is this one right here. Here I've shown the shorter version of the same thing. Okay. Now we're going to proceed to Eclipse to show you the rest of the process by writing the code in Eclipse. Okay. Alright, this is my Eclipse and I'm ready to write the code. So as usual, we'll create a scanner object because we need from the user the name of the output file name. So we say keyboard equal to new scanner dot in, and we need an import for that, so we do that import. Okay, so now we prompt user to give us a output file name. Say enter full path to output file. Okay. Now the thing here is, if file exists, all the data in that will be deleted, because we are not writing at least in this application, we are not writing in the append mode. If file does not exist, it will be created. Okay. And then we create a string file name, and we just use the keyboard object dot next line to get the full path to the file. I explained the next line use earlier. In Windows environment, file and folder names can have spaces. That's why we need the next line method, because it will get the entire line irrespective of the spaces in the line. Okay. So line 8 gets us the file name. So now we repeat the same process, file f equal to new file, and pass it the file name. And file needs an import as well, so import file, that takes care of that. And now the last step, where we are binding this file object that we created on line 10 to a print stream object, which will be used to print to an external file. So I say print stream ps equal to new and pass the file object. Okay. And again, we need one more throws declaration, because once again, as I mentioned earlier in previous video, Java is designed to be a very careful language. Here they're saying that, okay, what happens if when we get ready to write to a file, the file is not exist, file is on the drive letter on which you are not allowed to write, or drive letter doesn't even exist. In that case, the process cannot continue. So some extra code should be written to take care of that error condition. And since we are not ready to write that extra code, these magic words gets us out of writing the code and allows our program to compile. Okay? So anytime you write this kind of declaration throws some sort of exception, that simply means that, okay, I don't have to write extra code for that error condition, which will be resulting if file, in this case, file was not found. Okay. Alright, here I'm just going to do a file flag control loop in which we can write to the file as long as we want to the output file, and once we don't want, we can get out of it. So I'll write a loop called a boolean variable called done equal to false, and then while not done So I prompt user enter is, they can enter a whole line also, that's not a problem, but I'm just going to do like word by word, okay? Single word or data to write to output file. And they're going to enter a word or a piece of data, and then we'll get that and we write that to the output file. So we just use string data equal to keyboard dot next. Now next we'll get a single piece of token, a single piece of data that could be an integer, double, or a piece of text. Okay, so they will type that and they will press the enter key. Once I get that, I can print that to the output file. So output file was PS, so I say PS dot print. I can do println if I want to print each piece of data on a separate line. Maybe that's a good idea at this point. Data. So whatever they typed on the keyboard will be printed to the output file. Now since it's a flag control loop, now I have to ask them, would you like to continue or exit the program? So for that I need a, first I then prompt them. Enter next data to print to output file, or type 1 to exit. Okay. Okay, and I already can see a slight problem in this program. If they're typing 1 to exit, that means they can type 1 as one of the word or data. So that's a bit of a limitation, but we have to live with that for the time being. Okay, and certainly that can be overcome. It's not a huge problem. Okay, so I get their response, and response equal to keyboard dot next int, and then I say if response equals 1, then of course we are done then. Okay, we're finished. They don't want any more data to be typed to the output file, so I say done equal to true. Okay, once we have finished all that, it's actually extremely important to close the output file, because what happens is that if amount of the data is not very large, Java does not write to a file character by character. It's not like I enter a character, it goes into the RAM, and it'll run and write that character to the file. What it does is it puts that into a buffer, and buffer is only flushed after buffer is filled. So if you don't have enough data, the buffer may never get flushed. The only way to flush the buffer and write to your file is close the file. If you don't close the file, there is a possibility that you do all this writing to the file and you see nothing in your file when you open it. Okay? So I say ps.close. This step is extremely important in closing the file. Okay? You may see nothing in your file if you don't close it, because the buffer never got filled and data is just sitting in the buffer, and your program finishes and there's nothing in your file because it never got dumped from the buffer into your file. Okay, so that's the program here. So I run this program I say run as Java application, and I'm going to show you the place where I want to create my output file. I had these lines of text in the same location. I'm going to create a output file. So as usual, my technique is that I put the whole path and then I say, and that's my file path. Notice file with word out does not exist here. Okay, I'm going to come back to this window after program is finished, and you will see there will be a file. So I enter that path, paste it, and run it. Well, let's see, did it get created? Yeah, there it is. See, out.txt is already created. Right now it has nothing in it, but it did get created. So now it is asking us to enter a single word or data to a file. So I'll say quick, and then enter next data print to output file, or type 1 to exit. Okay, I think it's a problem now. I think I didn't do it correctly. I have to do it a little bit differently because I used a next int here. Okay, so let me exit just right now. I'll show the modified version of this in a minute to show you that if you wanted to keep typing, how that would work. So let me exit for now, and you will see that quick, the word quick is actually printed to the output file right there. Okay, so now let's see, modify this program so that I can keep printing as much as I want. So the way to do that would be, I need to modify my code just a little bit, and it will then work actually. So let's see, or type 1 to exit. So really what I need here is okay, I could actually modify it right there. I can leave that as it is. I don't actually need this dialog here. What I can do is, if I can modify this, enter a single word data, or enter 1 to exit. So I can actually do that right here. So then I do keyboard.next, and if it happens to be, just give me a second here, what I do is I take this data and convert that into an okay, let's see, that won't work either. Let me see, next. So this could be a word, or it could be 1. Alright, okay, actually that's pretty easy now. So what I can do is this, actually, if response, actually if data dot equals 1, then we want to exit. Otherwise we just want to print it. Okay, so this program, you can now, this modified version, you can keep typing as long as you want, and when you enter 1, then you will exit the program. Okay, so let's run it again, and let me actually copy this, because I'm going to give the same path again. And notice the file has 1 word, and obviously it'll get rewritten. In fact, I'm going to delete that and resave it, and then you will see it'll get rewritten basically. Okay, so let me run this program again. Okay, that's the full path. Paste, run it. So I'll say quick, and it comes back with the same message: brown fox jumped over a, one word only, don't forget, a lazy dog. Okay, now I want to enter, so I just enter 1, and that's the end of my loop. Okay, file got closed. If I open the file, you'll see quick brown fox jumped over a lazy dog. These are exact word by word, same thing that I typed here onto the console. Quick brown fox jumped over a lazy dog. And the 1 got printed, but it got us out of the loop basically. So 1 does get printed because it is still in the buffer here, and it got printed. Okay, so this is the formality. This program gives us the formality of typing something to an output file when the data entry is from the keyboard. I used 1 word at a time, but you could take entire line and print that line by line. In that case, you will use the next line method. Okay, and that describes and concludes how to write to an output file in Java. Thank you so much.